In muscle cells, fermentation produces lactic acid as the primary end product. This process occurs when oxygen availability is low, such as during intense exercise, and the muscles need to generate energy quickly. Understanding fermentation in muscle cells. Fermentation is an anaerobic metabolic process that allows cells to generate ATP adenosine triphosphate without using oxygen. In muscle cells, this process is called lactic acid fermentation and is crucial for short bursts of energy when oxygen supply is insufficient to meet energy demands. Glycolysis and ATP production before fermentation occurs. Muscle cells break down glucose through glycolysis, which is the first step in both aerobic and anaerobic respiration. During glycolysis, one molecule of glucose chucoke is broken down into two molecules of pyruvic acid. This process produces a net gain of 2 ATP molecules, which provide energy for muscle contractions. Additionally, 2 molecules of NADH nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide plus hydrogen are generated. Why does fermentation occur? Under normal conditions, pyruvate enters the mitochondria, where it is further processed in the presence of oxygen through the Krebs cycle and oxidative phosphorylation, producing large amounts of ATP. However, during intense exercise or oxygen deprivation, cells cannot supply enough oxygen for aerobic respiration. To continue producing ATP, muscle cells switch to fermentation. Lactic acid fermentation process. Pyruvate is converted into lactic acid by the enzyme lactate dehydrogenase LDH. This reaction regenerates NAD-nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, which is necessary for glycolysis to continue. Since glycolysis is the only ATP-producing step in this anaerobic process, fermentation allows a continuous supply of ATP in oxygen-limited conditions. The overall equation for lactic acid fermentation is C6H12O6 glucose gives to C3H6O3 lactic acid plus to ATP2 glucose gives to CHCO lactic acid plus to ATP C6H12O6 glucose gives to C3H6O3 lactic acid plus to ATP. Effects of lactic acid accumulation. Lactic acid buildup in muscle cells can lead to muscle fatigue and soreness. Accumulation of lactic acid lowers the pH in muscle tissues, causing discomfort. Temporary decrease in muscle efficiency. The acidic environment can interfere with enzyme activity and muscle contraction. However, once oxygen levels are restored, lactic acid is transported to the liver, where it is converted back into glucose through the Cori cycle. Conclusion: fermentation in muscle cells allows ATP production when oxygen is scarce, but it results in lactic acid accumulation, which can lead to muscle fatigue. This process is essential for sustaining muscle activity in anaerobic conditions and highlights the body's ability to adapt to different energy demand.